Whoa, that worked really effectively. That or it's just a Monday. I slid the screen when you guys just like got quiet. Alright, we're going to dive in. So, this should not be a very hard question based off the paper that you have sitting in front of you. Who can remind me what the 5 Ds in the 5D process actually mean and how we were using it last week to help us solve situations? I got a stack of random cards. I didn't want to pull them out yet. On the paper in front of you, you have the 5 Ds written out.
Describe, define, do, decide, and declare.
Yeah, describe, define, or draw. Like we can draw a picture, a model, or something like that. So we're going to use that process as we work through all of our problems today. I put 2 on the resource paper for you. A couple that we do aren't on there, so you will need your math journal out, please. So, based on my exuberant amount of volunteers this morning, I'm guessing I should just go ahead and read this. Math is used to solve challenging problems that apply to daily life. For example, how much fresh water on the planet, or area codes for telephone numbers. Like, have you ever thought about how many different telephone numbers there actually are? Like, how is it that nobody has the same telephone number? Well, at some point, somebody had to think about that, right? So where should a city build transportation lines? That's something that Columbus is currently thinking about. If we install a Hyperloop, there's a lot of math that goes into that. Subways, freeways, all different types of traffic. So mathematics can provide helpful insights for these, and the 5D process is how we get there. So I'm going to skip past a lot of that reading then. Here's the main questions we're going to remember as we work through today. So how can we describe the problem? Is there another way that we can think about it? Is there another way that we could write it, draw it, do something like that? How can we label the columns? Like last week we were working with the different fence sections, right? Not every problem is going to have different sections of fence. How can we organize our columns? How can we decide which quantity we start with? How can we decide what we try first as like our guess? And then, how can we explain this to others? Okay, we were trying to explain this to somebody else, really. So here's our first situation, and this is on your resource paper. So if everybody could look at their resource paper with me, we're going to start right there. A scalene triangle, and one of the reasons we printed this, please underline or highlight or something the fact that scalene triangle is then defined for you right there. 3 unequal sides. Right? They'll all have unique side lengths. Then it tells me the medium side length is 5 centimeters longer than the shortest. The longest side length is twice as long as the shortest. And the total perimeter around the triangle is 39. What are the lengths? So you and your partner dive in using the 5D process. Start with a guess. Work from there. Get to a point, or your end goal would be, if you can remember how we dealt with this last week, how do we use algebra to work through this situation more efficiently? So you can guess check a couple and try to narrow down your options, or you can go straight to algebra if you remember that. Pick your hand if you have a question, but you will have had to have asked your partner first. I was trying to tell classes last week, and I think I've forgotten this one. As we get further into the year, if you're going to ask a question of myself or Mr. Smith, you need to have asked your partner first, or even somebody at a neighboring group. So if Grant asks Marvin, and Marvin doesn't know for sure, he can turn around and ask Allie and say, like, hey, what about back here? You don't have to immediately, like, oh, I need help. Use your peers. Your peers are always fine. So dive into this. We'll give you a few minutes to try to figure out what are the 3 side lengths. We have short, medium, and long. We'll call them short, medium, and long sides. Remember, guys, if you want highlighters, come up and grab highlighters. If you want colored pencils, like all this stuff is for you. Anybody want highlighters? So guys, the first thing you should be thinking about is what can you write down that the problem has told you? What? So, if we're trying to do this, draw this, whatever, I know I have a short side, a medium side that references my short side, and a long side that references my short side. If I draw this and I don't really care what it looks like, I might say short side, medium side. Well, how do I label the medium side? It's the short side plus 7. And what about my long side? It's the short side times 2. So 2 times the short side. I don't know what my triangle looks like, but if I just throw a drawing up there, and then what do I know? One last piece of information that I've been told. Perimeter is 39. If you were doing, now you don't have to make a drawing always, but if you're a visual person, make a drawing. See, now you don't know where to throw it, because I have 4 dots open. So I'm going to have to manually do this. Alright, so if we did a picture, we'd have something like that. So down here, your trials. How many things do I need to define? How many things are we talking about here? 3 things, right? So here I might split this up into 3 columns.
I got it.
Oh, I don't want the answer. Do not jump to the answer. So, Annika, give me a number to try. Just no stress. Just give me a number to try. What'd you say? 2. So if I make my short side 2, what will my medium side be? What's my medium side? It's short plus how much? Short plus 7. So what would my medium side be here then? 9. What's my long side? It's 2 times the short side, right? So what would that be now? Ooh, wait. Does that even work?
No.
Crap. So 2 doesn't work right away, so we can just stop the work there. So 2 isn't even an option, because now it turns my long side into my medium side, and that gets all goofed up. Let's try something else. Alex? 6. So that makes my medium side 13 and my long side 12. That doesn't work either. Fantastic. We try 8. What's my medium side then? 15. Long side?
16.
Ooh, looking promising. What's the perimeter then when I add these up? 16, 15, and 8. Ooh. Does that work? So we got our way there. It took us 3 guesses to get there. 2 and 6 both totally didn't work. Is there a way that we could have done this without guess check? Alex?
Use the variable.
What do you mean, use the variables?
Like instead of giving 2 or 6, like F.
Ooh, instead of doing 2 or 6. Now, I could use S. I don't like using S. Actually, my S's look like 5s, so I try to avoid that. So here, what if we make our short side X? Then what's my medium side?
X plus 7.
And my long side?
2x.
2X. When I go to find the perimeter, how do I deal with the fact that now I'm using variables and constants? And what do we do when we go to add these? We're going to combine
Like terms.
like terms. We're going to group those like terms. So 2x plus 7 plus x. What are my like terms that can actually group together? What's up, Ella? So what do I end up with? Close. Emma, what do you think? What am I going to end up when I group these like terms? How many x's is this?
It's only 1x on that column.
Yeah, so when there is not a coefficient, this might really help you guys out, put 1 on there. Literally put 1. I just put 1, but put 1 on there, so we have 1x there, 1x there, and then 2x there. That's like 1 banana plus 1 banana plus 2 bananas. What do we end up with? Anybody?
4x plus 7.
4x. The 7 has nothing to pair up with it. It has no other like terms. Now, instead of us then answering, is the perimeter 39, we would make it 39, right? Who remembers how we solve this situation? Alex?
We take away 7 from both sides.
We take away 7 from both sides. Because we can. Except I can't scroll that. So we show it. Please make sure you show it. Now, I would work vertically, but I can't move my stuff. So now we would have 4x equal to 32. So what's the last thing we do here to get x by itself? What's happening to x right now? Add, subtract, multiply, divide. What's going on? It's being multiplied. What do we do to undo that? Divide. So we divide by 4. Divide by 4. What do we get for x? 8, like we already found. Guess check will work eventually. The algebraic process will always work. Try it now. The next problem is not on your resource page. You're going to have to do this in your notes. If you want to set up a formal 5D process, just make a quick one in your notes. If not, you determine how you want to approach this. But 116, where are we at here? Or not. Go ahead and check out 116 on your own. Okay, that's fine. There we go. So that's what we know. How do you deal with that? Can you give you guys a little bit of time to work through this? We got two different numbers. Their difference is 4. Their product is 96. I'm going to make these say is because we often are using of for multiply, and that's totally not what we're doing here. So I'm going to turn this into is, just like that better. You are working on your own. You do not need to be following what I'm doing. I'm just giving one option. So if we're following the 5D process, you've got some freedom for how you set this up. In the do, you're getting the values that you're working with. So that do column is always, or sorry, the define and the do column are always going to be dependent on the problem you're working with. Right now, our define, we know there's two numbers. We know their difference is 4, and we know their product is 96. What we don't know is what the numbers are, and if the numbers that we choose will actually do what we want them to do. I know a couple people have the answer from me walking around, but if we didn't have the answer and we were going to guess another number, don't give me the actual answer. Give me another number to guess. Patrick?
24.
24. So if this is 24, y could be bigger or it could be smaller. We don't know which is the bigger. I'm going to go ahead and make this the smaller. Will that product equal 96? I can tell you right now it will not. Right? Because 20 times 20 we know would be 400. That's going to be 400 something. Again, no. Now, some of us just know because you thought about what are factors of 96, and you immediately found a pair that had a difference of 4. But if we didn't, can anyone walk me through the algebra of the define, yeah, let's use blue, in the define or describe? How could we use algebra? How could we use variables to help us with this situation? two numbers, right? Marvin, what do we do when we've got things and we don't know what they are? Make a variable. So what if I come up here and I say I've got two numbers. My first one, let's say, is A. We'll use a different variable for right now. My first number is A. Okay? Liam, what could I do then? I've defined one of my numbers, but I didn't give it a number. I can't really check math right now. Is there a way that I could name my second number based off my first one? So we could say A and B, but since the difference between them is 4, then I could say, what can I say about B? I know the difference between them is 4. Nathan?
Wait, for a new one, could you do? I don't know.
Marvin? 4 more. Right? We don't know which one's bigger. Guys, I really need you to turn your brain on with me and let me know if this makes sense. We can say that B is A plus 4, or we can actually say that it's A minus 4. We don't know which number's which. Either way would work. I don't like subtraction. It's just harder. Like, I'll tell you guys over and over, I'm not that great at math. I just practiced it a bunch, and that's how you get good. I always use addition when possible. So I'm going to say A plus 4. Because I know the difference is 4, one is 4 more or 4 less than the other. Please write that down, because no one confused how I figured that out. The difference is 4. So I know one is 4 away from the other, either above or below. Aubrey, how could I write that the product is 96? A times B equals 96. Now, don't I have another way to talk about B, though? Yeah! Where you have B, replace it with the A plus 4. You guys, I'm fairly sure I'm teaching beyond where CPM wants us to be, but I want to connect this all right now because I don't, we aren't going to finish the textbook this year. If we just lay it out, we probably won't make it all the way through, which is fine, which is why sometimes I'm taking these a little bit further. So we could now say A times A plus 4. I replaced B with A plus 4. Do we understand what I did? I just replaced it. That's called substitution. And that equals 96. Questions? This is where things get really hard. And this is why we use the 5D process and we don't always use the algebra. I just need you to write with me, then at the end we'll look at everything that we did and make sense of it. This A times A plus 4, I'm going to scoot down my screen so I have some room to work. Now we've done this a little bit, we haven't practiced this a ton. When you have something multiplied by 2 things in parentheses, does anyone remember what we have to do with this multiplication? We break it up, it's called, starts with a D. Yeah, we distribute, so please draw these arrows with me. You draw an arrow to each item on the inside. What that does is break up our multiplication, and we get A times A plus A times 4. We have two different multiplications now. Now we end up with a squared plus 4a equals 96. Holy cow, what do I... Wow. Do we know how to solve a situation like this? We don't. We do not know how to solve a situation like this. And that's okay. You will. I just wanted to show you guys this. We followed the process that I keep telling you always works, that algebraic process. This will work. You guys just don't know how to solve it right now. So if you hit a point like this, you're like, I totally don't know what to do here. You might just hit a dead end. Not saying this won't work, but you don't know how to solve it right now. And we don't need to take the class time to go into it. So sometimes the guess check method is more effective because we know how to make that work. We know how to set up that one is 4 away from the other. We know how to test the multiplication and see does it work. So here, the guess check method actually, for where you guys are at right now, probably the best solution for this problem. I tried 117. It's on, sorry, did we ever actually finish? Oh, we did not talk about, who's got the answers here? What are they? Just give them to me. 12 and 8. Or 8 and 12, doesn't matter the order. If you work through your guess and check, or you think through the factors of 96, when I do 8 times 12, it gives me 96. And that's how I know that is correct. Check out 117. You have it on your resource paper. The Potter Valley basketball team did not record how many basketball or baskets each player made during the last game. But Jenny remembers she made 3 times as many as Grace. Alexis knows she made 6 more than Grace. Joan made 4 fewer than Grace. Notice that they're all referencing Grace. Tammy made the same number as Joan. And all together, the 5 players made 40 baskets. The reason I put this on your resource paper, and I would highly suggest either colored pencils or highlighters, so you can break apart the information and pull it out and re-represent it. So take a few minutes with your partner. Find that important information, figure out how we're going to represent it.
Good morning, Naya Dunn. Please stop at the office. Naya Dunn, please stop at the office. Thank you.
Who am I missing up here? Nathan? Grace. And since they all reference Grace, what if I make Grace's baskets G? about this process. The define is really like quantifying, giving values to things. So if you choose an amount of points for Grace, you should be able to figure out everybody else's points off of that. Now, if I want to make my life easy in the describe draw section, and you don't have to draw for everyone. Some of them make sense to draw, some of them don't make sense to draw. This one I probably wouldn't draw, but to make my thinking easy, I would write out how I'm going to figure out these other players' scores in a way that I can see mathematically really quickly, so I don't have to keep going back to the word problem. So for Jenny, Mr. Cooper, what can I write for Jenny's score?
3 times Grace.
Yeah, so 3 times the G. Allie, what would I write for Alexis's score? Yeah, and we like to do, when we're talking about addition, it's better to put the variable first. But either way is right. It's just they like to see the variable first. Alan, what about Jones?
G minus 4.
G minus 4. What about Tammy? Go ahead, Alan.
G minus 4.
Same thing, because Tammy got the same thing. Alright, so I'm going to drag that back up on my other screen. So we're here. I know they made 40 baskets total. I don't know if it'll let me drag. Aha. What would be a guess for Grace? Anyone work one that got close? 7? Yeah, she made 7 baskets. Try this out. Grace made 7. Jen is 3 times that. 7, 14, 21. 7 plus 6. 13. Joan and Tammy. That minus 4. And then Grace was just G. Let's see, 20, 41. I'm already over 40. Crap. So if I try to do, and I add them up, I'm going to be over 40. So we're too high since we're over. Nathan? Try 6. So 3 times 6, 18. Plus 6 is 12, minus 4, 2, and 2. One of the 2's can go with the 18, make it 20. Ooh. I think Nathan found it. Figured out 7 was too high. 6 is spot on. So then, what we know is what? Our reference point of Grace.
G equals 6.
Yeah. Our declare, Grace scored 6 points, or baskets. Now, could this situation be worked through algebraically? The last one we kind of hit a dead end. What do you think? Could this one work through? You're nodding your head yes. You know, why are you thinking that it could? Okay. What would be different about this situation than the one before? Yeah. What did we have to do in the last one we don't have to do here?
We're trying to find one number while the other one we're trying to find 2.
Okay, the other one we were trying to find 2 numbers. Here we're really just trying to find 1. But I guess the other one, I ended up with just A. Right? I was only looking for A, quote unquote. I mean, we kind of did. If I said that Jenny would have been like J, then maybe I would have been changing variables, quote unquote. In this problem, do I ever have to multiply? only, right, with the 3g. Do I ever have to multiply a variable with another variable? Remember last problem we had a variable times a variable, and that got really goofy. It gave me the variable squared. Here, humor me for a moment. Write these down as g for Grace, 3g, g plus 6, g minus 4, right, and g minus 4. If we were to work through and get all of the g's that were there, take a moment, what would be the total amount of g's? Take a moment on your own. Anybody, everybody, how many g's? 1. How many here? 3. Remember, this is like 3 bananas. I know the g only, it's not g, it's 3 g's, so 3 times g. So 1g plus 3 g's plus another g, another g, another g. So try again. How many g's? 7. So we get 7g. What would my constant be? 6 minus 4 minus 4? What's 6 minus 4? 2 minus 4. Negative 2. If you wanted to take the algebraic process, we could just do the 7g minus 2 equals what? What do they have to equal? 40. So you have another one in your notes to solve it. What would I do here first? Matt, what do I do first here? We want to get rid of the minus 2. It doesn't fit. How do we undo minus 2? Yeah, add 2. And we get 7g. 42. Emily, I know you've been out, so you're welcome to skip. Do you know what I do to get g by itself? Yeah? By what? What number do I want to get rid of? The 7. So that's what we divide by. And we will still get g equals 6. Now, one of the big things that Mr. Smith and I were talking about in the core class, make sure you're choosing numbers that make sense. Right? If I know that their scores add up to 40, and somebody scores triple Grace's score, would it make sense that I try Grace's score being 20? No. Because that and I'd already have 80, and I'm way over what my situation allows. So make sure that you think what numbers really make sense to try if you're taking the guess check method. Thank you very much. Please work through your homework. You do a few different types of these problems. So I want to take questions tomorrow during that first 5 minutes if possible. Have a wonderful day.